IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
कृपया ध्यान दीजिए, the language used on the podcast may not be fit for consumption. We warn you, tread carefully. But listen, yaar, don't be so conservative.
Yes, it's called Cyrus Says. The gentleman is about to join me. He's a man who can make or break your career. But before I get into that, just want to remind everyone it's World Pollution Day today. Okay, I'll rectify that. It's not exactly World Pollution Day, but it's the worst day for pollution in Mumbai. I've been told that the air pollution quality is so bad today that we are going to outstrip Gurgaon, where the esteemed gentleman is sitting waiting to meet us. And that's saying something, because apparently in the last 10 years, Gurgaon and Delhi went ahead of us. But Mumbai is fighting back. We can still be the worst city in India. In many ways we are. We haven't given up hope to get that label back. How dare you take it from us? Anybody out there?
Season 3 of Echoes of India, your favorite history podcast, is back on the IVM Podcast Network. I'm your host, Anirudh Kanasetti. Join me on a journey through the wonders of early India as we explore the centuries between Buddha and Ashoka with critical research, empathy, and great storytelling. Along the way, you'll hear from all the vibrant peoples who shaped our world, from monks and farmers to warriors and emperors. New episodes are out every Monday.
Let's go and meet our gentleman friend, the one and only Angad Bhatia, who, let me quickly mention, is the founder of Men's XP and CEO of India Times Lifestyle Network, which is basically the future, all the digital branding. We'll get into all that. Angad, welcome to the show, and I must congratulate you on that fabulous Taj Mahal that you're living in. And behind you, lagta hai ki that's the, what is it, the Lal Killa, yeah, the Red Fort, or whatever it's called. I can see some monument behind.
It is a building under construction. And Cyrus, lovely to be on your show. A big fan and super excited.
What are you saying, Angad? Liar, liar. Acha, so we'll do this in two parts if you don't mind. One, we'll do, I want to talk about you yourself, where you come from. The personal side is also more fun for me. Not to rubbish the professional side. And then, of course, we need to talk about the entire Men's XP experience, how it started, all that. One will lead to the other, I suppose. So shall we go back first and look at your life a little bit and then get into the professional side more? So you want to, let's go back to the early years. Let's not go back to the Ramayana, where Angad was first featured, as far as I can remember. Let's go a little further from there. So tell us about where you grew up, what you were doing, what were your dreams as a young man. Give us some insight to the life and times of the young Angad, circa 1990 something.
So I grew up in Delhi. My folks were in the government. So lived in sort of, government apartments throughout my life. I was there until 10th. 10th, I was studying in a school called Frank Anthony. And then changed one or two schools in Delhi itself, gave my boards and got a chance to study for 2 years, 11th and 12th in Australia.
Wow.
In a sort of a boarding school in the middle of nowhere in southern Queensland, in a small valley called Coralbin. And I could sort of go on and on and on about that place. It's essentially a small valley about 40-minute drive from the nearest,
Queensland
at least a 40-minute, yeah.
Brisbane, right? That area, right?
Yeah, near Brisbane. Yes, absolutely. So maybe about a 2.5-hour drive from Brisbane in southern Queensland. There's a valley, and the only thing that's there in the valley is there's a golf resort which is active for about 3 or 4 months of the year, and then there's a school which is kind of sort of spread out into the wilderness of the valley.
But how did a guy from Delhi land up in a small school in a township area of Australia? I mean, I would expect you, I'm not saying you wouldn't have gone abroad, but generally we go to all these other more glamorous cities. So how did you land up there? What's the story there?
There was an exchange program from my school in Australia, from my school in Delhi to this particular school. It was a cultural exchange program wherein 10 students were sort of chosen to go to this school, and then subsequently 10 students from Australia was supposed to come back to our school. And I don't know how the schools were sort of in touch with each other, but somehow I landed up on that.
It makes perfect sense because if you're a West Delhi boy, especially, Virat Kohli himself is very Australian in his mannerisms, attitude, aggression, and so it's very possible that this happened around the same time. I'm trying to figure this out and piece it together. A lot of Australian behavior. Yeah, go ahead.
I picked up none of the Australian attitudes, except none of the habits I picked up. Unfortunately, picked up a lot of friends.
No, come on, you have to do the accent for us. Yeah, we have Silvery, my producer, is very good at accents. So when he comes on, we'll do it again.
I have tons of stories when it comes to accent, because when I landed up in the school, I was the only brown kid. And this is a world school, right? You have kids from Indonesia, from Korea, from China, lots of Europeans, lots of people from Canada. And I'm literally the only brown guy. And when I say brown guy, not just the only Desi guy, but the only sort of brown Middle East, that entire
South Asian,
the entire South Asian. So I went through stuff like, the Asian community didn't think that I was a part of that community. And there was a lot of groupism in school. And then, it's really a bad idea to join a boarding school in grade 11.
Yeah, true.
And people think you go to Australia, it's going to be like a cruise. But this was like, all the cliches for boarding schools are true, regardless of which part of the world you're in. So my pet name was Curry. I had a thick, very thick Indian accent. But truth be told, eventually I became the head boy of the school.
What are you saying?
And it's been quite a journey for me. And thank you. Nobody's ever asked me this kind of stuff. So
hey, one second, I want to talk more about this. So you get there, and it's almost like racism, because the Asians, and I've seen that this is true. They tend to look at themselves as the ASEAN countries, or whatever you call them, and they leave out the Indias, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, as sort of countries. So you were completely isolated, actually. Now, obviously, there's the ethnic Australian and the Europeans or whatever. So you were alone initially, and then you reached.
So
how do you become the head boy? I'm just thinking that you're almost in a state of depression, I presume, in the beginning.
Yeah, actually, probably not clinically diagnosed at that time, and sort of was asked to shirk it away. But I kind of went into a shell, wouldn't speak much, etc., etc. After a while, it was like, if you've got to survive this place, you've got to sort of branch out and you get to put on a thick.
This is a huge story, Angad. I didn't realize the monumental capacity in this story, because actually, without going through the rest of your life, I can already say that when you come there, I don't think you'll ever have a bigger battle, because you're completely alone. You're a young kid. You go from the happy family parivar of Delhi to suddenly with this whole, I can imagine, and then to go and be the top of the heap. I think already you've proved yourself. I think everything else has been easy for you after that, I would think, comparatively.
Yeah, look, I think I was 14 when I reached Curralbin. Curralbin is the name of the valley. And I'd be lying, those were the two most transformative years of my life.
Wow.
I've made some of the best friends, actually. And they're all over the world now. So I was in Seoul recently and, caught up with some of them. And I think fortunate to have now friends from practically across the globe. And yeah, but look, it was pretty crazy. It was very, very crazy, to say the least. So Curralbin is actually an Aboriginal name for a copperhead snake.
Oh.
So here's this valley where literally it's not even a town, right? It's just wilderness with a school thrown into it. Right? So, and Australia is infested with snakes, and this valley is infested with snakes. And the sort of just the wildlife, the kangaroos, the wallabies, the sort of the entire ecosystem, and the proximity to nature. While in hindsight it was so much fun and so refreshing, at that time it was really, really daunting. So but some crazy years, Cyrus. I don't know.
Not to harp on that for too long, because we have so much to talk about. But one last thing I want to ask you. So you're saying you're friends in Seoul, and I presume it's like United Colors of Benetton from all over. But how did you? Is there any point? How do you manage to make bridge the social divide, the social isolation? I'm asking this. My son is in Canada right now. He's homesick. He's just been there for a week. And I'm just thinking how tough it can be. We never think of it till it happens, for kids from wherever to sort of stand up when they are sort of isolated, and this is a story for a lot of people around the world.
Yeah.
So how did you make that little
No,
push up?
absolutely. Where in Canada is your son?
He's in London, Ontario, which is great fun to tell
London,
people. because
Ontario. I was
yeah,
in
yeah.
Ottawa, by the way, for 7 years.
Oh my God.
Ottawa, Ontario. So
Wow.
maybe that later. But
Huh.
yeah, look, it
This whole
was,
show will just be about your journey across the world. We won't even come into XP and all that. Yeah.
No, we can get into look.
So no.
No,
Sorry, but so how did you? I mean, you're there, you're isolated. They're not talking to you. They're not really. It's like I suppose the more subtle racism. But then, how do you? How do you make yourself?
The racism was not subtle at all.
Oh my God.
It was not just mental. There was a lot of physical sort
Ragging?
of abuse as well.
What are you saying?
Absolutely. Shameless physical ragging as well. But look, I think eventually you learn to grow a thick skin, and you learn to push your way through. And I think where I sort of started opening up was I'd done 10th boards, and I was enrolled in the local. It's called the OP system. They call it the overall percentage. Like US has the SATs, right? They have their own local system. So I think that was at least a year ahead from where Australia was. So practically my 11th and halfway into 12th was a repeat of what I'd already sort of done in 10th. And the rigor we go through for boards.
Correct.
So I think studies came very easily. And over time, I was sort of the center of attention, where kids lining up to help with their homework, to all sorts of things. So I was like, the cliche.
It's the
like
Indian brain help you. I see now. Yeah.
So that was one. Second was they had an old shed in the school, abandoned old shed with a cricket net.
Huh.
So they apparently had a really successful cricket program at one point. And, I asked my dorm master if I could just have a look in the shed, and literally got the keys, opened it up, full of spiders, literally without exaggeration. I think 3 or 4 snakes came out. Right. And by this time, you're sort of just so immune to sort of this that the snakes don't bother you. And then, after I roamed the place a little bit, I found a bowling machine. Like literally you insert balls and it'll throw for net practice. I found maybe like 40 cricket bats, 2 boxes of the kookaburra balls. And, I think spent about 3 weekends and cleaned it all up myself, and started inviting people to just come and play cricket. And my dorm master was kind, Mr. Dimmick. He gave me a free hand, and he's like, do whatever you want, and sort of revived cricket to a certain extent. So it was almost like I had to bribe my way.
You retaught Australians cricket, which is very much part of it.
No. I didn't teach anyone. I just started it. I sucked at cricket. I
can see you getting popular because you revived the sport again there, and sports are everything for Aussies, is it not? I mean, that's really part of their life.
They're actually called. They are very, very outdoorsy, actually.
Yeah.
So, in fact, a friend of mine, there were like 4 or 5 houses in the valley where some of the staff and some of the really, really older kids used to stay as well. And these homes are like everyone has their own private airstrip. They're extremely outdoors. I think calling Aussies outdoorsy is an understatement, right? They are constantly running. I think I imagine them to be horses, honestly, in my mind.
Yeah.
They're big built, and eventually also made my way as a winger in a rugby union team.
Wow.
It doesn't look like it, but my job was.
No, but then you must have been quick at least. Yeah.
I was tiny in relative terms, at least at that time, and. My job was to just literally run with the ball. And if I get tackled or break a bone or etc., I didn't have to worry about that. My dorm master would take care of that. So look, I think just started involving myself in.
So you completely also playing the sports and doing everything else. Plus, you're the brain of the class. So I can see it happening. But this is a gradual process, obviously. It's not like an overnight thing.
Yeah. So look, in between, there was a lot of anxiety. There was depression. I've never really openly spoken about it. Other than a TED talk, I think maybe a TEDx talk. But beyond that, look, it was 2 most transformative years of my life. And I think, people don't pay a lot of attention to what loneliness does to you, how it makes you how it makes your mind wander. and how it really actually also at the same time helps you discover yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that journey, I also spent like 7 years in Canada, in uni, and sort of working there for a bit. But the 2 years in Australia were phenomenal.
And you're much younger. I mean, you're 14. It's a pretty tender age. It's probably, in my mind, the worst age, because you're not just a kid, and it's that searching for identity area for males, I think, if I remember
Yes.
correctly, many years ago. But no, this is very fascinating. I had no idea about this. You're just going to go through all your achievements in the corporate world and the digital revolution. But well before that, I'm a great believer that whatever you do in life, there are some life lessons that happen, whether you know it or not, subconsciously, maybe sometimes, which make you really tougher, better equipped, stronger in spirit, and all these kind of things. And
Right.
I think, would it be fair to say those 2 years would, everybody doesn't have those 2 years that you have. It's almost like a privilege now. It's like your 2 years in Vietnam or something.
Big privilege. And I'm told my mom went through a even worse time, because she was like, what the hell's going on, right? We were like living a fairly modest and good, happy Delhi life. And then here I was uprooted, and sort of, I went with my own will, actually. Nobody else wanted me to go. I like sort of pestered and convinced my dad to send me back. Actually, I ended up giving some entrance exams, so got a little bit of scholarship, so that sort of helped out. And I think it's just pure luck that I landed up there. So yeah, look, I think a lot of people don't put attention to what kids go through, especially when they're alone. So even your son, the kind of experiences he must be going through right now is just going to really sort of put a lot of perspective, give him a lot of perspective. So it's exciting.
I'm going to send in this podcast ASAP, just to show him what can happen when you just get through the let's call it the short ball barrage in cricket, since you've used cricket metaphors, and then it becomes easier to bat as you go on. Again, just don't want to keep talking about it, but I do think that without knowing it subconsciously, it just prepares you as you deal and as you became successful and started your real career. I think you already had that kind of infrastructure in your body and mind to take on things, to be innovative, because you had to survive there. It's the same skills you're using. You have to literally survive as a guy on his own, and so you find cricket. You get people to come and play with you, and you sort of become a leader in that sense. You use your mind and you excel in the class, and before you know it, your status is there. So I'm just saying, these are the real lessons. Perhaps not so much what you learn in the class sometimes.
Absolutely. No, just because you've sort of broached the subject, I'm going to share a very quick story.
Please do.
I think survival took a whole new meaning. So, in Australia, they have 4 terms, right? So after every 4 terms, there's a short break. So there's sometimes a 1-week break, and the summer vacations are, of course, almost a month-long break. As opposed to, I think, India, where there are 2 big terms, and then they're like summer vacation, winter vacation, etc. Right? So, my father had just sort of took a voluntary retirement from the government, and in my mind, at least, cash was still tight at home. So I wasn't really always convinced with, sort of pestering my dad to buy me a ticket to fly all the way back home for, even if it was a week or 10 days or so. So one of my sort of responsibilities as the school captain or the head boarder, they used to call it, right, with the boarding school, was to essentially maintain a roster and ensure all the kids are going back and being picked up by either their folks, or they have a sort of a trip plan to
the logistics of the trip,
logistics of getting everyone back home. So one of the perks was nobody would question me because I was responsible for everyone else. So once I signed everyone off, I decided that I was going to hide, because the valley would get deserted. When the holidays were on, everyone would sort of go to their respective homes, and the valley was literally pitch dark. So I decided that, okay, I'm going to pack everyone up, and I'm going to actually go back and hide in my dorm. I had stocked up some vending machine food, because a part of my responsibility was to restock the vending machine and so on and so forth. So I'd made arrangements, and I hid in the dormitory. Everyone went. I came back, hid under my bed, turned the lights off, waited for my dorm masters to leave. And literally, I didn't even want to turn the light off, because a single light on, you can probably spot it from miles away, right? So I hid, and then about, I think the next morning is when I woke up, and then it really struck me that there's literally not even a single soul. Now what happens is, I think while the first and the second day is still exciting, and then, just sort of enjoying, and you're going to the common room, playing a video, so on and so forth, I think by the third day, the mind starts wandering a little bit, because there's not even a single human, right? So I had never seen that kind of, not loneliness, but that sort of environment in my life. So I think by the fourth day, I think I was hallucinating because I was roaming around the valley with a tennis ball and a tennis racket, whacking it, fetching it. There was not even a single soul in that entire valley,
Oh
right?
my
So
God.
I think that was like the crazy. It was my
It's like
own
a sense of
castaway.
dementia. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So it's my own castaway story with encounters with all sorts of animals, with encountering
Snakes.
a kangaroo which almost came and boxed me, and I ran away. And then when you're alone, all these things are just so much more sort of scary, right? And then frogs and snakes and all just that surrounding of that beautiful valley. So it's a very, very crazy time. So in hindsight, there's just so many stories to share, right? And then so yeah, a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. And thank you for asking me. I've never really spoken about this at all, to at least never in a public forum. So thank you for bringing this up.
What a But this is, I know it's probably therapeutic for you also, but I love these stories, to be honest. I hate to be a guy who keeps squeezing them out, but I love these stories. I think these stories are the real human journey, you know. I mean, I can go online and check out Angad Bhatia. I can know all your achievements. In 5 minutes, I can write them down, not to belittle them, but these are the more interesting ones. I mean, and then the fact that you're taking us back to sitting through it took a lot of bravery actually to do all that, to actually stay in a foreign country, in a valley away from any city alone. I mean, what were you thinking actually? It was just a majburi actually, in a sense, right? There
It
was not
wasn't a
too many
majboor.
options.
I don't think my father was in really that much of a financial. At least he didn't show us what kind of financial situation he was in. I just felt that it was unfair to ask me for a ticket for like a week. So I just did it, and I didn't really think of the repercussions. And I have a tendency to just dive in and then think about the repercussions much later. So I think,
Well, you're a
yeah,
Delhi boy in the end of the day. You play cricket like Sehwag. You hit the ball. If it's there to be hit, then
I
don't worry
suck
about
at
what's happening.
cricket. By
Yeah.
the way, I suck at cricket.
Cricket is just a metaphor for life. Yeah? It's not about the cricket ever.
I understand.
Yeah, but look at that cricket helped you, Angad. I think that's a little unfair. Cricket was one of your weapons. If you look at it, was your mind, your
Absolutely, I think
personality,
so.
and then you found this game, and I'm sure your popularity was was something that was spread up much faster because of the fact that you were the guy who reorganized cricket, got them back into it, and then got going. All right, listen, we've spoken a lot about this, but really this has been fantastic. This is exactly what I like to hear. Let's quickly fast forward. You went to Ottawa for your postgrad, obviously. Post that. That must have been a breeze, I think, after at 14, fighting snakes, living under your bed so that the dorm master doesn't see you, not putting lights on. And let's not forget you were 14 or 15 years old. I mean, that's really a tender age. I mean, we don't really send our kids out there. It's 18 at the very least that
Right,
the normal
right,
Desi kid goes out and, tries to find his future in education. So, yeah, I
right.
think that's a fabulous story. So, Ottawa in 2 minutes, what were you studying?
So I did my engineering there. Sucked at it completely. My mind was not in it. Worked in Canada, and much like
But
Australia,
didn't
I
you
was
know you were
so.
an organizer by then? You were already meant to be like a leader, organizer, entrepreneur, because you can see what you've done in the
I had
past.
lost. No, no. For some reason, my time in Australia is a blur. I sort of, just I was still reeling my time from Australia so much that I wasn't really in it. So I was very distracted for other reasons as well. But my time in
The ladies.
yes, that we are not
Ah,
going to
this
discuss.
show is open to all kinds of interpretations. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So look,
There are
that's
snakes, and there are also, I mean, there are other side to Australia. For God's sake, why should we just show them snakes and kangaroos? Yeah,
no.
all
So
right.
I think that's more in Canada. So look, time in Canada is a blur. I didn't really enjoy my time, but it was a beautiful country, of course, right? They say they have two seasons in Australia. There is summer and there is construction. There is construction and then there is summer. So whatever. It's a beautiful country. I think met some very fascinating people. Worked there for a while, but eventually wanted to come back. So came back and was whiling away my time. And my brother was starting a company, and he said, "Why don't you come and join me?" And I had nothing to lose, and I said, "Okay, fine." So I was sort of the de facto tech guy in what my brother started as a company. He was actually heading a magazine at that time called Maxim.
Yeah, yeah.
So Max,
Oh.
of course. And he was sort of stepping out of Maxim, and he started a brand called Men's Expert. And his idea was that, look, Indian men they don't know enough about how to navigate their social lives and social situations, right? There's not enough literature out there to actually help us with that kind of
There is
stuff,
none.
right?
There
So
was none. Yeah.
there
For us
was
growing
none. So
up.
whether if
Yeah.
it's interview tips to dating life to
I mean, how
grooming,
to approach a girl across the country.
uh,
Or the only thing we used to say is
absolutely,
ask our seniors, can you get me an intro? I remember at least in Mumbai,
huh,
that was the parlance. Get me an intro.
abs-
That was it. And it's a
absolutely,
useless way
and
to meet a girl. Huh.
and even the literature which was available was very like American, right? Wasn't really didn't really work for the Indian sort of
Localized.
yeah, it wasn't localized at all. Forget sort of managing the cultural sort of complexities between states and languages and so on and so forth. So look, it was his idea to start a brand that really sort of focuses on providing good content to Indian men, which will help them navigate their social lives. And I was supposed to be the tech guy, and I was supposed to be like, okay, I'll help you build your backend, and I'll build the tech and so on and so forth. Fresh out of my whatever days with learning tech and so on and so forth at the Carleton University in Canada. I think after a couple of months, he felt we borrowed some money from my father, and we, I think, burnt about 30-40 lakh rupees in about 7-8 months. And I think he felt at some point that he was a little institutionalized to run that. And I sort of said, okay, I don't know what to do now. So I just kept on going for some reason, and I kept on building it until we ran out of money completely. And eventually it morphed into a services company, and I was building websites for different people. And people who wanted websites also wanted the content written for it. Some who wanted content, eventually one of them said, hey, I even need a business plan. So I was like, what? So sort of hustled my way from one gig to another gig to another gig to eventually turn this into a services company. Built up enough revenues, built up a team of 15-20 people to say, look, there's enough now. Let me get back to where we started. So restarted Men's Expert as mensxp.com. This time with like a sort of revived energy to say, look, there's a void in the market. This category is going to blow up at some point. Uh, Content's the easiest and the cheapest way to get into this space. So let's just get into it. We'll figure it out what to do next. So I think one thing led to another, raised a seed round, raised sort of some more money. A lot of people bought into the story. And at one point, sort of, we were powering content on Yahoo. Lifestyle content was being powered by Men's XP, and
May
sort
it
of just
rest in
really built it
peace.
out from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
May it rest in peace. Yes.
Uh,
But even the services business grew, right? So we were building sort of some modules and websites for Samsung, Pioneer, the car audio guys were coming in. So that business was grew. So stepped out of it to say, look, let's just focus on this product and help it sort of grow. I think about 2.5, 3 years into the journey, ended up meeting Satyan, who was taking over the reins of Times Internet.
correct.
And
Yeah.
lo and behold, while I was out to raise my first institutional round of funding, we were acquired. And he basically had this vision of building a company full of entrepreneurs. He said, look, I want to build a model wherein we keep entrepreneurs and build a culture wherein you guys come and build sort of your own companies out. And joined the Times Group, and have been building Men's XP, got a chance to rebuild India Times, IDEVA, put them all together into a sort of a lifestyle sort of cluster, ended up building a studio business, the South Delhi Girls and Honest Reviews and some of the really popular IPs that we've done. And about 2 years back, said, look, these are great brands, but I think there's more to these brands than what meets the eye, and forayed and rather pivoted into content commerce. So I think today Men's XP does decent business. I think it's the fastest growing marketplace for men in the country. And so essentially use the last 8-9 years of the media, the community that we built to translate that sort of audience trust into commerce. It's sure.
And you've kept that whole male lobby. What is it? The male market requirement throughout.
Absolutely.
Which is how you started.
Which is how we started, right? So I mean,
I'm thinking there was no one you said, no one in that space. So that's the big idea, actually. Everything else, as good as it is, that is a real standout idea. Because nobody ever thought about how we, especially younger men, whether it's dealing with dates or work or social situations or parents or family and all that. So you're tackling that entire space from the mind of, which I presume must have been you and your friends also, because you know the space in a sense. We all do growing up.
Right.
So it came from there. But yet, don't you think those are the great ideas when you, I mean, so it'll be immodest to say, I guess, but when you think of an idea, which is the idea that everybody else will say is a great idea, literally, because nobody was thinking about the fact that we needed someone to help us, or I don't use the word guide, but you know how we Indian men are. We really flounder in social settings to begin with. Always say the wrong things, always do the wrong things.
No, I think, starting from our global influences on fashion, our local influences on fashion, there's so much diversity, right? That, you could be caught sort of, like, for example, Tere Naam was all the rage. And the hairstyle was all the rage.
With the hair, oh God.
With the hair,
but
right?
But
so
in
now,
many parts, it would be a horrible hairstyle, yeah.
Absolutely. So how do you navigate that, right? It's very complex for Indian men, especially. So what is acceptable? What is not acceptable? I think what happened very organically was the content that we are creating found an audience very, very organically. Like, we didn't have to, start writing about Bollywood to get page views. I think that was what, luckily, we got right from very early on, that you didn't have to become into a Bollywood blog,
which everybody else is doing.
Right. So we really found sort of this space where people genuinely wanted to understand how they could navigate all these situations. Grooming and fashion became the two big hitters, right? Like, for example, we did a survey recently, and we found out that almost 92% of Indian men, our audience actually, still don't understand what their skin type is. Nobody knows, like, combination hair, dry hair, what is it? Nobody knows what's going on, right? And there's sort of like really big beauty marketplaces that we're trying to sort of look up to, but look at the challenges we have to sort of traverse, right? Yeah, so skin type nahi malum, so forget selling product after product.
Skin type nahi malum means we'll start experimenting, which is even worse, because then we look worse.
Absolutely.
At the end of it, because the knowledge is zero.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the key is that I didn't realize how many of us are such big losers, if I dare say the word. And then you finally realize that we need help. And this is not just to do with class. I think this is from whatever your income group is to whatever, however else, whatever sophistication you seem to have in society, we still flounder a lot.
Right.
So I do think it's a great space to be in. But Angad, you've spoken far too much and far too candidly. So we need to take a quick break for 10 seconds.
Sure.
And Antariksh, also known as Silvery, will come in, and he's your market. I've never seen a bigger loser after me than him. So I want him to also ask you a few questions. He'll come in, and then we'll have some EMAs. Silvery, can you join us? And say hi to Angad. I know you met him already.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hello.
Hi, Antariksh.
By the way, he's also a boarding school boy in a sense. So, although, of course, Panchgani is not quite Australia and some township outside in the interiors of Queensland with foreigners and all, but there will be a certain amount of, what is that? That I don't know the word depression, but, trying to coping. Did you have a coping issue in the beginning, Silvery?
I mean, the food was terrible. So, yes, I did.
Elite coping.
Like my boarding
elitist
school,
coping.
Instance,
Yeah.
Yeah. My boarding school, for instance, has put me off of vada pav and poha for the rest of my life. I cannot eat them without just tasting that terrible mess food in my mouth.
That doesn't mean, Angad, we didn't mention that. You would have got nothing close to Indian desi khana. You would have got nothing.
That's true.
When you reach the interiors of, I'm just thinking, what would you get? Like bland continental food?
I loved it, but I went from, like, obviously yummy mom's food to the prospect of not liking food to, starting with like pies for lunch and like steak with potatoes and veggies. I loved it, actually. I loved the food. There was just, for me, it was a sort of my whole palate was opening. And because it was a world school, I had a very interesting, the mess had a very interesting chef. So he would try out a lot of these world cuisines. And while the, all the sort of, the locals and the Koreans and the Japs, etc., they would make fun of it, I gobbled it all up. I just loved the food in my boarding school.
It's called positive perspective, Silvery. तेरे पास नहीं है. तू क्या करते हो उधर boarding school में? It's called positive perspective. You take the culture and make it your own. That's what he did. Learn from the master. Slay Coffee. Sophisticated doesn't mean something has to burn a hole through your wallet. It just means that something is worldly, elegant, smooth, enlightened. Also sounds like me. All things that describe Slay Coffee. Slay Coffee is absolutely delicious, comes in sleek, spill-proof and temperature-controlling packaging, and it can be brewed in the comfort of your own home for an elevated coffee experience. You just know Slay Coffee cares about the experience that they create with their coffees, and caring, well, now that's sophisticated. I especially love their salted caramel latte and their French lavender latte. By God, man, they're both to die for. And as you know, adding salted caramel or French in the name of any item makes it immediately 7 times more sophisticated. Sahi baat hai. This is completely true. Take it from me, Frenchy Brocha. Slay Coffee. Are you a coffee nut, Angad? Are you one of those guys who needs this coffee? Cup of Joe, as they call it?
I just bought myself an espresso machine. I am a big coffee nut.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to get my hands on Slay now. So it sounds pretty...
Oh, great. Thank
Without
you.
telling him, he's saying the right thing. See, this is corporate India at its
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
They understand the brothers in the tribe. Kya kya karna padega. They know it. You don't have to tell them. And sometimes we have guests who have no idea. They'll mention some other brand and we'll have to, oh God, because it's live. I can't pull it out when it's live.
No.
It's always a
I'm in the
minefield.
advertising business, so...
You are. I wish you write a book about this entire, how your entire life. Your life is so interesting. How you turn things around and all that, especially that whole, the first half, and because I think
Thank you for saying that. But yeah, look, it's been an adventure, yeah.
you've reached where you've reached. You've had a very colorful life. It's not a very run-of-the-mill life from any angle, I can tell you that. It's like many of the people I grew up with go to the same schools in South Mumbai, go to the same colleges in America and do the same thing, and with no disrespect, but their lives really, there's no color or drama or theater to it. There's no story to tell. What's the point? How do we make a film? But Angad, we can make your movie. Silvery, you can play the character. Just you'll have to make sure that you can tolerate all kinds of cuisines.
Talking about colorful lives, I want to ask you a question, Cyrus.
Bolo.
Tell me about one of the pranks back in your Bakra days which terribly went wrong, which actually genuinely went wrong. I want to know that story. And I've been meaning to ask you for decades.
There are many.
Tell me one of them at least.
The ones that they get angry and all is fine. There are plenty of those, and physical altercation, all that's fine. These things happen occasionally. What really upset us or scared us is when the person was very unhappy, like as in depressed, suicidal, like that. We had one guy who, so I was inside the fridge, and it's a kasai shop. He comes to buy meat. And in Mumbai, apparently, Maharashtrians like to buy mutton on Saturday. So we did all our research properly. So he came to buy meat, which is spending the money, going to have a glorious meal today, etc. Opens the fridge because the guy tells him to open the fridge himself and just check out the cuts because he's busy. Opens the fridge and there's a body who comes out like that with ice on it. So this guy fainted. He fell on the floor. He wasn't like behosh nahi hua, but he was like holding. So when he broke the gag, he's holding his heart. And he started sweating, and then I started getting really scared. Yeah, and for a second, me and the boys were thinking, "Ki kuch hua to?" I mean, it's like murder. Then we never think of the gag going really well. Going really well is a very dangerous thing. We always worried about it not going well. So after that, we were a little careful. Luckily, he did recover, but for 2 minutes, I thought my life was over. I said, "Kuch hua to?"
Oh, yes.
What do I say to anyone? I can't put my head up. Forget jail and all that. I can't explain this. It's just stupid. Really. Yeah.
But I want to know.
So that was a bad one.
You've been a funny guy throughout. Like, you've been you. And such a unique space that you've carved for yourself. How is that? Like, I've seen so many of these so many sort of celebrities who've taken up sort of different roles, and they're very different through decades.
Angad, to be honest,
like the OG Cyrus.
But I tried everything. I have no choice. There's nothing other thing I can do. I tried to be a Mr. India. That didn't work out. I think Milind Soman won, and then Arjun Rampal, and then a few others. So that didn't work out at all. I tried to do movies. I've done 7 or 8. None of them have worked. 1 or 2 of them done okay, but not because of me. I've done everything I can. But ultimately, the only thing I can manage is doing this silly shows. Thank God for podcasts. This is now the last stand of the Mohicans. We have to stand here and fight on. But we're discovering people like you and discovering your real stories, which is so much fun. And I get to talk about it. It's really fresh for me, as against living in one small world and doing just the same thing. So for me, I think the experience of the podcast is very therapeutic. Like we were going to talk about, I have so much information about you, which we haven't even got into. But you opened your heart and mind about something else, and it's really organic the way it grew, and it's lovely. I think Silvery is looking there completely stunned.
Why
because these human stories, I think, what inspire people. Someone watching the show, I hope will say, I want to be like Angad because he can do that. We can do that. I'm going to send this to my son for sure. There's a certain, I think there's real mental strength and thing that comes through.
What's he doing in Canada?
Well, he's undergrad right now, so all kind of economics and all kind of 3-4 subjects.
Sure.
But first he has to cope. It's just week 2. Let's see. But also they had 5 days to reach there with the pandemic, stop in Dubai, test. So it's been a horrible journey. Not like, it's been like going back to the 60s when our ancestors went by ships to London and all that. I don't know if you remember those times, and you would not know what happened to your son or whatever for 3 weeks, 4 weeks till a telegram came. That's his life.
Is he staying on campus?
Yeah, he's staying on campus, and he'll fit in slowly. There are plenty of foreign students.
Sure
exactly similar story and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But these, I don't know. I just find these stories more fun, really.
Yeah.
Of course, the great idea is finding that space in your case about what's missing. So for the urban male, especially across the country, which I think you zeroed in. And after that, there's no looking back, because that's something you'll have to provide the content for life.
Right.
Because we are going to come like a factory, the next generation of idiots, for you to help. It's amazing.
Look, I don't think the brand's built on just idiots. Look, I think at the same time, the last 3-4 years, the diversity in our sort of ambassadors that we look up to is just so diverse, right? So I think the mascots of inspiration today used to be, 3 or 4 Bollywood actors, maybe 2 or 3 Hollywood actors, cricketers, and of course, today is just like I think you have people find their mascots on Instagram, people find their mascots through podcasts, through everything. And I think so the role for the brand itself has really
You're right. It's going to be damn tough to be a holistic. You never have an Amitabh Bachchan again. I don't think we're going to have a one-man factory across all mediums in India and all that. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Post this Ranveer Singh era or whatever, I don't think we're going to have that. I think they'll be all split up. Like you said, there'll be people just following their Insta loves and their whatever, different networks, etc. TV would, if it survives, will be separate, almost like a separate audience. Is that right? You think?
Yeah, look, I came across a quote recently by this sort of fashion trend forecasting, New York-based agency. It said back in the day, people were born into sort of communities and had to venture out to find their individuality. And I think with the internet, today you're born individual, right? You have to go and seek your community of sorts.
True.
So I think for me, that's reflective of the, it's like your individuality, because it's so much diversity and inspiration and sources of inspiration, which is a great thing. You now seek people who are very similar to you. And you sort of try to sort of cling on to that community. So I think for me, that's sort of reflective of the times we live in. Just so that I don't get, it's called K-Hole is the New York. So I'm giving the appropriate credit to the agency. It's a very K-Hole. It's a very profound quote.
And aptly named. Anyway, let's introduce a gentleman, Angad, who was on that boat, cruise ship, rave party, Mr. Silvery, who jumped off just in time, I think, and then swam to shore.
Yeah.
I don't know, he had bags with him. I don't know what was in it. Silvery, do you want to ask Angad anything? You're also a upcoming comedian actor, so maybe he can find you some space. You look like the right demographic.
So like, what would be if someone was to start following, say, Men's XP for fashion tips, right?
Okay.
Or for grooming tips? What would be something that they should check out first on Men's XP?
So look, I think we've been at this for almost a decade now.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll probably find more than 100,000 pieces of content which are still relevant, right? So I think right now, a lot of people flock to a lot of the short form video IPs that we do. There's an IP called Style Up, which is done by this creator called Siddharth Batra, very popular. He essentially just sort of mixes and matches, whatever he thinks are the right combinations. So a lot of people like that content, while a lot of us actually want very functional tips. So for example, a lot of people who buy sneakers on Men's XP get a push notification on how to keep your white sneakers clean. right? Which is a very functional tip, but it's actually still very important because you don't know the products you want to use. And so I think the diversity, especially in fashion, is inspiration by just looking at visuals like pictures and videos and sort of, just music with people dressing up, to very functional requirements: how to iron your clothes, actually, how to the kind of socks to wear with the sort of formal shoes and sneakers. And go on, Cyrus.
Angad, let's test Silvery a little bit because I really think he's the market. So how do you clean your white kids, whatever, tennis shoes, whatever you call them? How do you keep them clean? Let's see if it's correct.
I don't know. There's a brush. There's a brush, a varnish, and then the parts that are brown, I just paint white over it.
That sounds like a 45-minute procedure, yaar. I hope it's not the same brush you use in your hair, for God's sake. Is that correct? That can't be correct. There must be some simple 1-2 steps.
That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not correct.
Look, I don't know all the spot. I don't really
check out my website. I just count the money. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, don't worry.
Somehow my white kids are always clean. So I'm now trying to think there must be some.
Sir, you don't leave that Gurgaon palace of yours. Why do you need to? You've got some 35 acres you're sitting on here. Where are you going to go now? It's all good. Yeah.
Not at all. I think it's Antariksh. You need to buy. We have a shoe cleaning kit. That's what you need. It also comes with content on how to use it. I didn't plug any brands, so I'm sorted there. But look,
plug away. Please plug. Yeah.
No. So look,
it's a
lot of people actually generally care about keeping their sneakers top notch. So and it's these tips.
Like people don't bend their toes also, right? That's the thing, right? You're not supposed to bend your toes.
Yeah, there are a lot of shoe fanatics who create.
I don't know about Indians, but I know Americans take it really seriously. It's like probably the most interesting part of their dressing. The guy doesn't have a decent pair of pants, but he'll have these shiny, sparkly, perfectly cleaned, groomed shoes.
Absolutely.
I don't know whether we have that yet, but I know they do.
Yeah, there's a whole subculture around Nike shoes, around Nikes.
Yeah, sneaker.
Which is quite a paradox. It says just do it, and that's the last thing on their mind because they're looking after it like a baby. There's no question, just do it. Yeah, really.
It's true.
He can't endorse or criticize the brands. He's sitting on too many of them. We have to do another ad. Is it? Okay, it's so difficult to understand so many things in the tech world, like AI, artificial intelligence. What is that? It just sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? And then we are all supposed to do a fake laugh. This is where the guests can also enjoy. So, that laugh was from Coral, but ladies and gentlemen. Luckily, though, Intel's digital readiness program empowers everyone with skill sets, mindsets, and tool sets to use in an AI-fueled world so you don't end up like me. Yes, that's true. As part of the Intel for Youth program, Intel's been working with the CBSE, Ministry of Education, and the Government of India, which is on the floor above me, to empower today's youth to build social impact solutions while demystifying what AI is. So how do you take advantage of this? That's your question. I'll answer it. Purchase an Intel Core-powered PC and you get free access to 80+ hours of immersive and hands-on training about AI. On completion of the program, along with a certificate, you get access to AI tool sets to try to put to use what you've learned. So don't wait, log on to futurebanawonderful.intel.com. Future Bana Wonderful by bringing home an Intel-powered PC today.
Follow me at Instagram and Twitter on Bored Brocha. I'm so bored, I need your help. I need your love. I need your touch. Okay, just follow me.
Angad, there's no pressure. You can do it later. But just on your way home today from the bazaar, one Intel PC if you don't mind.
Done deal. I think that was enough of.
There will be no verification. As long as you said yes, it's good enough for us. Don't worry.
No. I mean, it's for the betterment of society and government of India and
there you go.
Right.
Ministry of Education. Yeah.
Ministry of Education. Yes. So it's for the kids.
Correct. Correct.
Kids, yes.
And CBSE, very much a Delhi board. Silvery, let's go to AMAs.
Yes, please. The first one comes in from Kashin Shetty. He says, "Hello, Mr. Bhatia. Since you mentioned honest reviews, did you anticipate their popularity? How much planning happened for the journey, or was it all spontaneous?"
Great question. So look, what happens with video production, as Cyrus would also agree, a lot of the planning is all baloney. It's all spaghetti on the wall. And when it actually sticks, you say, okay, let's do more of this. So I think video programming, especially online, is the strategy is spaghetti on the wall. If it starts sticking, right, you keep doing more and more and more and more of that.
Okay, so it's hit and miss in actuality.
It starts with a hit and miss, and then whatever is hit, you keep going deeper and you keep improvising. So there is a method to the madness, but I think there is a lot of experimentation to start with.
But yeah, with the net and with films, I think that's an obvious point, right? People keep asking formula kya hai, formula. If there really was one, wouldn't everybody just be doing that? I mean, it would just be perfect. Right. Everyone would have a winner, whatever they produce. But obviously there isn't. So yeah, which is good.
But I think very specifically about Honest Reviews, I don't think we anticipated the kind of popularity they got. I think it's also to do as much with the behind the scenes effort. I think, of course, Zain, Rajesh, Shubham, they put in a lot of effort into that show. What seems very unscripted and easy, there's actually a lot of there is some method to that madness. So, but I think it's going very, very strong. The show is going extremely strong. And you'll see a lot of variations coming in that show again.
And that is Angad's honest review, straight from the heart. Chalo, next one.
That is.
All right. Abhishek Das asks, what is something you guys truly enjoy doing that most other people don't care for?
That's a good question. Is that specific to Men's XP or for me personally?
No, I think it's a personal question, but it may fit into something you've shot or presented or became popular, because maybe an idea, who knows?
Look, I think there is a lot of content. There's so much the diversity in what people want around content is just it's just so different for everyone, right? So not everything that we shoot finds an audience, and I think that's the same for us. So, like, I may like some of the the short form interviews that we do with. So we ran an IP called Stories of the New Hood on Men's XP, wherein we got behind the scenes of how some of these amazing direct-to-consumer companies were built. Like, we interviewed Shantanu Deshpande from Bombay Shaving Company, founders of Ustra. So I mean, it didn't have a huge audience, but I loved watching it. So I think idea is to just keep creating content, and even if you find a niche, meaningful audience, and some people enjoy it, and a lot of other people don't care for it, it doesn't matter. You just keep doing it.
My story is very painful because it's about disparity in society and how I promote it. I find that walking in the streets of Mumbai since my childhood, lower income group people like to stare at you for some reason. And I've always liked to stare back. Of course, when I became a little more confident, I would smile at them and say hello, and they would not know what to say. But I do that staring all the time, and I still do it. And, it's great fun until somebody drops their eyes. But we took that in a Bakra once. We just as an experiment, stood at Marine Drive, and we tried, I'll stand there and I'll just keep looking and pointing at something in the sky. And let's see what happens. Just that much. Angad, you won't believe, we had about 15-20 people in 5 minutes. I'm not even talking to them, no communication. I'm just pointing and thinking like that. It's just pointing like it's something, looking at something. And they would come and say, kya hai, bhai, kya hai? And they were just standing around asking. And then the other guy is asking the other guy, pata nahi, kuch hua? Koi aircraft hai kya? Kya hai? Kuch satellite hai kuch? Dekho, main kuch dekh sakta, kuch nahi dekh sakta. Dekho, barabar dekho. That kind of conversation is going on in the background. And I just held it there for a little while. So I just tell you, these are the things that you enjoy if you're a little juvenile also.
On that note, I have a hack for cracking. I found my hack to crack Delhi's road rage.
Tell me.
So I was back, after almost a decade or so. And I found driving to be a very arduous task, right? I was like petrified. And especially, people honking in the States or in Canada or in Australia is such a big thing, right? And there I was in the cacophony of Delhi traffic trying to navigate my car. And I was petrified. So over time, I developed this way of sort of getting over it. So whenever somebody would get very aggressive, right? Like when I say Delhi aggressive, that means, honking, honking, almost chasing you. I would roll my window down and I would agree with them very loudly. So if they will say, whatever, if somebody's really pissed off at you,
MCBC chalu ho gaya to?
Let's assume MCBC chalu ho gaya. So you roll your window down and you say, yes, I'm a very bad driver. I agree with you. I should not be driving. I know why.
It's almost Gandhian.
So people get very sort of confused, and then they eventually
Disoriented.
leave.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same. The disoriented is the most fun here. They're like, "Kya hua?" They're just not sure what happened. That's fabulous.
Right,
Silvery
right.
got into an altercation just 2 days back with two bikers who started to hit him and stuff. I mean, it got out of control.
Yeah.
So don't worry, Delhi road rage has come to Mumbai properly. It's the same now.
Oh, geez.
So yeah.
Easily.
You want to try that next time? You think it'll work?
I mean, I'll try anything to not get beat up again.
I think
So,
in
yeah.
Delhi,
Why not?
I think in Delhi they have a sense of humor. They might appreciate it also, but in Mumbai there's no sense of humor.
Yeah,
They
that's
have no
true.
idea what you're saying. Yeah.
Like they'll be like, तेरे को पता है तू कंडक्टर ड्राइवर है फिर भी चला रहा है. They'll be like more.
Daddy को
Yeah.
बुलाओ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Next one.
All right. Next one comes in from Kumar. This is very funny, this question. It says, Cyrus and guest, would you agree for men, grooming down there is as important as keeping the visible portions of the body tidy and groomed?
Oh, I wonder whether you've taken this on, Sajji. Have you? It's a relevant question.
It says Cyrus and guest.
Relevant question.
So Cyrus, why don't you start? I will just say yes.
Come on, Anga, don't dodge this. You're the expert, yaar. The ball in rugby terms, you've got the ball. Huh.
Look, there is all I can say is in business parlance, it's a category which didn't exist. Today you have D2C brands which focus only on what they call under the belt grooming. In fact, on Men's XP, you'll probably find about a dozen brands which actually focus just solely on this category. So I'm not saying there's a men's brand in the market or unki ek choti si collection hai. Just focused men's brand. So it's a legit subcategory.
Anga, the point is also key. Yeah, okay, it is. But how important is it? Because ultimately, who's going to see it? Maybe the one lover of your life or whatever. I mean, who's going to really see that? So it's more like a personal thing that the guy is getting into. So
I mean,
in
it's
your
also
mind, is
hygiene.
it-
It's also
Okay, that's what I know. So what you're saying is it's important to do it. It's important to keep it
Yes.
groomed as well, not to ignore. Okay, ठीक है. Silvery, would you
I
like
mean,
to?
grooming the word ही थोड़ा, are you aware? The word grooming is for horses. It actually is for horses. So I don't know
मेरा
what
सोच
the gentleman mean.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, some men think they're like horses. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but Silvery, do you? I don't know how to ask you this question. Are you? I mean, you're the next generation. So my generation
I mean,
honestly didn't do much.
I do groom down there. Yeah, I'll just keep it at that.
Yeah, just keep it at that. I just want to know whether
Just keep it at
the
that.
youngsters of today, the guys in their 20s, and all, they take it seriously. मेरा सोच अलग है because as the hair is falling from the head, I'm thinking really just don't interfere with anything. Yeah, just let it be where it is. Whatever you've got, just thank God whatever's left. But I guess it's a different world, and they are. Angad, I don't know how you identify with the younger people in the sense that younger men are so interested in the way they look in terms of, as you mentioned, skin, texture, moisture. I've worked with younger actors and all that who carry all these bottles of lotions and all that, more than even the women have on the set. And I'm like, really? And from going to really and like looking down on them like they're sissies or something to actually getting fascinated by boss. कितना खर्च है, firstly, because it's like
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
think
money has been spent.
it's the newer generation is a lot more aware and a lot more invested. So
And maybe
so
uglier,
maybe-
Angad. Maybe uglier because they don't have our confidence. They need those lotions in order to, perk them up a little bit.
probably more confident or equally confident.
Keep your market, my brother. Keep your market. You've come a long way from 2 lonely years in Australia to be, make a stupid mistake on a podcast like ours, which nobody's going to watch. Don't worry. Chalo, Angad bhai. I mean,
I watch it.
Silvery bhai. Yeah. No, don't worry. A lot of people will watch it.
All right.
You'll inspire a lot of people with your story. I'll have you know once this gets out. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. The next one comes from Bruce Wayne. Asks, a wise divorced friend once told me, sex is the price women pay for marriage, and marriage is the price men pay for sex. I married recently, and my wife stopped having sex with me. Please advise.
Talk about Bakra.
So
Yeah.
Mr. Bruce Wayne, I'm sorry, but I think Cyrus will probably have more life lessons in this scenario, and I think there is a section on Men's XP which deals with sex, and I'm more than happy if you message me to sort of refer you to the teams which write I'm
But
stumped
we can't
at this
introduce
question.
we can't introduce you to prospective wives. So please understand what we are willing to
That's
do and
true.
able to do. Yeah. Yeah. My only take on the whole thing is that the marginal utility of any product diminishes. Anything anywhere in the world. So the whole idea of marriage is it's always you're on a cause for sort of a slow decline. That's the way it is. So some people it declines faster, some people it declines slower. And then they say you have to perk up your marriage and go for a foreign holiday and this and that. So you try all these things. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking the investment in marriage is like mutual fund. It's when you're coming to that 55, 60 age where you will need the spouse and the spouse will need you. So you got to stick
That's
through the
true.
middle period when you're thinking, yeah, isme kuch hai nahi. What am I doing here? So that's my point. But I don't think you should ever advise a second person about marriage. It's a very, very personal thing. In fact, whenever I know of affairs going on in my groups and friends, I just say, I don't want to be involved, bro. I'm Switzerland. I just don't want to, because you will never say the right thing. And there's no way that you're going to get out of advising someone without somebody hating you for life. Right or no? It's not worth it. So I just stay out. Silvery, being a coward is a very good thing. Silvery,
Yeah, I guess.
he's not even listening to us anymore. He's listening to
No,
No, I'm
Kishori
listening. I'm
Amonkar.
just.
He loves his classical music.
I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Marriage?
I think you.
Angar saying something. One sec, huh?
Okay, sorry, Angad. Yeah.
I think you have some advice, Sylvie. I think you wanted to give some advice, so go for it.
He's the only unmarried guy. What does he know?
Yeah, I don't
that's,
really.
That's right.
It's like a blind guy in the
Yeah.
library telling you which book to read. Yeah, let's not overdo it. It's not fair.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
They won't know till they get married. The good and the bad.
That's true.
Bolo. Next, beta.
Alright.
Last one.
Next one comes in from Rohan Jacob. He says, your childhood is over when nose hair trimming becomes a familiar routine. Is there anything that you guys can think of that you weren't prepared for when you became adults?
God, yeah, really, from glasses to nose hair to ear hair, it's just been so painful. Why does he never allow Rohan Jacob on the show again? Horrible to remind us about this. Sir,
you should get Rohan on the show. Get Rohan on the show.
Make him shave.
And do live nose trimming on the show. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
No. I completely agree. This nose hair trimming and hair trimming in general in odd places is a bummer.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
No, my daughter was telling me the other day, looking at my ear and saying, "Ooh, Dad, there's hair in the ear." And I was like, oh God, I've become one of those guys. We used to make fun of those guys when we were young in college. They kaan mein kya hai and all. And no, you're one of those guys. So be careful who you insult, youngsters. You're going to be that guy. There's no way out.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
Only insult people who you'll never become, right?
Like who?
Don't
Kim
make fun
Jong-un?
of bald people if you know for sure you'll never go bald.
No, you never know. You never know. Don't take a chance. With personal hygiene and looks and all, I think don't take a chance. Philosophy, you can take a chance because mostly you won't become, say, a fanatic or a nutcase and, a violent guy or whatever. But I think personal hygiene, I won't take a chance. I'm never going to insult people with glasses again. But I spend my whole day going like this without the glasses. It's so embarrassing. Chalo, sir. We've nearly run out of time. Can we squeeze one more in? Let's not wait Angar's time. He has to earn money sitting on a silly podcast with you and me, Silvery.
Yep.
That's mean.
Sure.
Go. Quick.
No. I said yes to one more. That's true. Let's get another one.
And I've got a dog with this baby.
Okay. This one comes in from Parth Champaneri. He asks, what will happen if tomorrow there's no internet?
Well, we had that 3-4 hours of that no WhatsApp. Remember last night or 2 nights back?
Monday,
What will happen to? Let's ask the man himself. I mean, he's all about the internet.
I think it's going to be. I'm just trying to paint a picture out here. I think it's going to be anarchy. Do you remember how when we won the World Cup, we were all out on the streets?
Yeah.
83 beta. 83. Not 2011.
Not 2011.
Yeah, 2011. Oh, 2011.
Everybody was out on the streets.
You're also young, sir.
Right?
Beta, you're also young. So your point is?
Anarchy. Complete and absolute anarchy. People out on the streets. Look, this is it's a lifeline right now, right? It's a lifeline for business. It's a lifeline for entertainment and वो क्या कहते हैं ना roti, kapda और internet.
The day you forget your mobile phone, and it's happened to me, I'm sure it's happened to some of you all, and you have to actually call someone and you say, boss, can I borrow your phone? And then you don't have the number. I think that's the first time you realize we're so dependent. Growing up, I knew all my friends' numbers, parents, relatives by heart. I have a family in Delhi. I could call them up, ding, 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 no problem in my head.
Absolutely, yes.
Now we're screwed. Who are we going to call? We take the phone and then you just look at it.
Right. Right.
So I think
Also, asking
so-
someone else for their phone is also kind of tricky
Yeah,
because
ridiculous.
people very easily assume that you're going to just steal their phone and run
But
away.
I'm hoping it's some sort of co-worker who it's okay, not a
Okay,
full
like that,
stranger.
okay.
At
Fair,
an
fair,
airport,
fair.
no, it sometimes can get embarrassing. You have to find a kind face.
Forget internet, right? WhatsApp and Facebook was down for a couple
Exactly.
of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See the sort of agony.
yeah.
So, I think it's going to be complete and utter anarchy. People on streets are almost moving around like zombies. Zombies, right? Not sure what to do.
Angad, what do you think would happen to men's XP though? Would it continue as an offline kind of version?
Come on,
in a way.
It won't exist.
it's never going to happen. It's just a hypothetical
I know
question.
it's not
How-
gonna happen, but what if it does? I don't know.
How do they
possible, right?
communicate? We all can't communicate without the internet. We're dead. That's
You
it.
don't need anything. Okay.
You can't go back to
Okay.
printing or hoarding and saying, guys, groom here or something. It's not going to work. So I
Yeah.
think, we're all finished.
Yeah.
The whole world
I
is
have-
finished. I mean,
I have
I'm
no
out of food.
backup plan.
I think let's hope it doesn't happen. It's like saying if the seas disappear or something, what are we going to do? Oh God!
Yeah.
By the way, we're all coming to Gurgaon to stay, huh? Because they're saying by 2050 Mumbai will be underwater. So sir, address to de do, kam se kam.
And they're saying by 2015 there'll be no groundwater. So in Gurgaon.
In Gurgaon.
It's much worse.
I'll carry my water, come there. Then the problem is what do we do next? Like learn from Angad's philosophy. It'll come to it. We'll just start and then it'll come. Will come to us,
It'll
right?
come, yes.
Just take the first step and then see what happens. Yeah, listen, this has
Right.
been a fabulous conversation. I'm truly saying this, no jokes. Really, very inspiring story. I had no idea about this first whole side to you and all that. We just thought you're one of those corporate guys who's done really well with a great vision, etc. But much more to you than that. And I hope a lot of people listening, especially kids, youngsters who are away from home, who are missing their family and all that, get some courage and identify with how this young man, when he was a young man, overcame all kinds of odds and today is sitting on top of the gold mine here, doing really well, but really had his own struggles.
Thank you.
Silvery, I hope you picked up something from that. You're staying in Powai with your parents.
Yep.
Leave the house now and suffer a little bit
Uh,
to cross the line to become the next Angad.
I just found out my mother has COVID, so I can't leave the house.
Oh, geez.
My mother's COVID.
Very sorry to hear
Yeah, my
that.
mother has COVID. No, that's why she's fine. Don't worry. I mean, like just like mild
Coma,
fever. and all.
no,
But, yeah.
oh, she's got fever.
Yeah,
Oh,
but she's vaccinated, so she'll be fine.
Thanks
No
for
problem.
killing the comedy, but that's well done.
Yeah, I'm
Thanks
just
a
saying,
lot.
I can't leave the house.
It's superb of you to do that,
Have to
Yeah.
quarantine. Yeah.
Sylvie, hope
All
hope she recovers. And Cyrus,
it's all
this
good,
has
yeah.
been like, मतलब वो कहते हैं ना, dream come true moment for me. No, seriously, no jokes.
I'm the Hema Malini
I-
of your fantasies. Dream
Dude,
girl.
you are absolutely. I wanted to be the guy at the receiving end of the bakra. So I've been following your work since that time, and I had a chance to watch some of your exciting films. I know you dubbed Angada. You did a character in that movie, so I've
I
been
did
very
many.
keenly sort of.
That was one of
You
the
did
characters.
many.
A lot of actors didn't turn up. The dubbings were at 6 in the morning. It was a
Are you
long
serious?
story. I was 17 years old. Yeah. I had to do a lot of the small characters and all here and there.
And then
And I went early to meet Amitabh Bachchan, who used to come at 4:30, and I kept missing him. It's a very sad.
And you did a show. Was it a show that you did as a kid? I think you were in a Nasruddin Shah film as well.
Yeah, Jalwa.
I was-
Yeah.
Jalwa, that's right. So
Correct,
that was
correct.
your starting point.
Yeah, it's a
No,
pretty good film
fantastic.
actually. Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it.
Thanks for reminding me. Anyway, you guys have a good day. Our mutual fan club ship is over now. Let's go and make money and sort out the ship. And Silvery, hope mom gets well soon. I hope she's watching.
all good.
Auntie, please get well
Yeah.
fast. Yeah. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thanks.
Our pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, catch us on any of the podcasting apps, please. We beg you, we need you. Send us your questions on Twitter, on Cyrus Says In, or you can email us, even if you're not female, on whatcyrussays@gmail.com.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav speaks to Rafiq Ahmed Shah. He's 73 years old and a fourth-generation artist who is fighting to keep the vanishing art of Kashmiri carpet weaving alive. On Tere Mere Raaste, Keshav helps us get acquainted with Dharamshala, the Dalai Lama's abode, along with its twin, McLeodganj. On The Habit Coach, Ashton explains the importance of your starting point and how your goals and directions make an impact. On Marathi Kirtitun, Dr. Rajiv and Manik Deshmukh introduce us to the different languages spoken in India, their origin, and their evolution. And on The Wire Talk, Siddharth speaks to Dilip Menon, a historian of modern India. They discuss the worrisome practice of lynchings and rewriting the past in India. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any other show for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Inter. We appreciate the support.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcast's website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.